pray for us for our event.
기도하겠습니다. Let's pray in Korean. 하나님 아버지 은혜를 감사를 드립니다. 오늘 미주아태재단 주최로 우리 청소년 마약 예방 프로그램을 진행할 수 있도록 인도하신 것을 감사를 드립니다. 하나님 이 자리에 미주아태재단과 그리고 애틀란타 총영사관과 애틀란타 한인회, 애틀란타 교육을 비롯하여 한인 여러 단체들이 함께 참석하여서 우리 미래 세대 청소년들의 마약 문제를 함께 논의할 수 있도록 인도하신 것을 감사를 드립니다. 하나님 이 미국이 또 미주와 전 세계와 하나님 또 한국도 이제는 마약에서부터 자유로운 나라가 되지 못하고 있습니다. 하나님 우리 아이들의 영혼과 육체가 마약으로 인해서 무너지는 것을 봅니다. 그렇지만 하나님 우리 한인 사회들은 아직도 우리가 마약의 문제로부터 멀어져 있다고 우리는 안전하다고 생각합니다. 그렇지만 그런 우리의 마음을 틈타서 하나님 조금씩 우리 마약이 우리 한인 사회를 들어오는데도 불구하고 우리가 아직 알지 못하고 무엇이 문제인지 깨닫지도 못하는 그런 상황이 있습니다. 하나님 우리 미주아태재단이 이렇게 주최하는 이 청소년 마약 예방 프로그램을 통하여서 우리가 다시 한번 마약에 대해서 경각심을 갖게 하여 주시옵소서. 그리고 한 사람의 노력이 아니라 우리 모두 합심해서 하나님 이 문제를 잘 대처할 수 있도록 인도하여 주시옵시기를 원합니다. 하나님 진행되는 행사 순서마다 하나님께서 함께하여 주실 줄 믿습니다. 또한 특별히 하나님 이 행사를 개최할 수 있도록 장소를 허락해 주신 예수소망교회 박대영 목사님과 성도님들에게 감사를 드립니다. 하나님 예수소망교회가 날마다 부흥하게 하시고 하나님 아버지 우리 미래 우리 청소년들을 위해서 헌신하는 교회가 되게 하여 주시옵소서. 감사를 드리며 예수님의 이름으로 기도합니다. 아멘.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Children Youth Drug Prevention Program Seminar. I'm sorry to not many people attending here because weekend, so everybody busy. But even though this is a great opportunity to learn about drug prevention, I think I'm great privilege to be honored to have you here. Especially I'd like to thank you for Gwinnett County, which is Gwinnett County Commissioner Chairwoman Nicole Hendrickson is a great leader. We have great people here care about our community. So I'm so happy to be leading Gwinnett County. First of all, I know Gwinnett County Police Chief is here, supposed to be here, but I don't know whether he'll show up or not. Chris Penanelli. And also, we have Gwinnett County District Attorney General Bessie Gasson. I'm very happy to hear. And also we have Assistant Attorney General for the Gwinnett County, Chris Lee. And we are here to get together between compact between the parents, also children. We don't know what to do with these drugs, but we have to know. Of course, without love, we cannot be able to handle for the children. And the love is taking care of everything. We can kill so many people with this gun violence and drug and alcohol everywhere. We just turn around, we cannot be able to say this is a safe place to live. But I don't know exactly how many people, but all over the United States, the best place to live in the United States, the city, which is county, is Gwinnett County. That's what I heard, and I'm very proud. It's wonderful. But especially here, multi-racials live in this country, this Gwinnett County. The most Americans watching on this Gwinnett County, politically, economically, and socially. So we are eager to take a step together, work together to protect all our children. And also, we get together, support all these communities to the best live and safety-wise. And I'm so very happy to have you here, and especially here, I'd like to say Atlanta Consul General, Consul Joe Myung here. I think it's great. All these care about the community, for the Korean citizen. And I like to say a few recognition for Korean people here in Gwinnett County. Rapidly grow over 150,000 population is in Gwinnett County. So a lot of people attention, and they keep moving toward the many companies moving toward this here. And I think growing Georgia State plus, especially Gwinnett County. So we need to together work together, society, to get better safe. I think it's wonderful. So thank you so much for coming us.
지금 송 회장님 좋은 말씀 많이 해주셔서 간단히 인사만 하겠습니다. Thank you, Pesci, and thank you, your husband. Thank you. 그죠? 우리 박수 한번 해드릴까요? 우리 송기성 회장님 좋은 말씀 다 해서 저는 너무 좋은 이런 자리를 마련해서 감사합니다. 앞으로도 이런 모임을 위해서 예방협회라든가 검찰청과 검사들 같이 함께 범죄위원회 같이 함께 저희 한인회 협의체를 구성해서 노력하겠습니다. 너무너무 좋은 장소입니다. Thank you so much. 감사합니다.
Thanks for inviting me today. It's a really great honor to be here to talk with many people who are interested in this important matter. And I think that this is really important matter in Korea as well. The drug situation is critical in my country as well. And then there's been an uptick in drug problem. So our Korean government is responding against drug crime. Now, I think it's a shared responsibility for all of us to tackle this problem. So I really appreciate the people who made this event to work together. So the Korean government will support this kind of activity always. Thank you.
So, when I was first invited to come speak here, I was under the impression that I would be speaking in Korean. I don't know how comfortable everybody is with English, so if you guys had something that you did not understand, please ask again, and I can kind of go through that a little bit, I think, for you. I'm actually thankful for Officer Matos, who went through the different type of drugs that we normally see when we are prosecuting cases. I do want to reiterate that drug is a very unfortunate situation where it's the weakest and it's the most vulnerable that is targeted with drugs. Okay? It's when our teens are at their weakest, when they don't know anybody, when they're feeling alone, when they're sad, that they turn to drugs. It's because of that that our laws are also a little bit filtered. They are made in the sense that drug isn't something that we do to hurt somebody, right? We recognize that. And because of that, the Georgia legislation and also federal law, they tend to give more chances to people that is caught with drugs. I think it's a little different in Korea right now, where when we hear about 연예인들, right, all of the 가수들 or entertainers where you're told, oh, they did some type of drug, and everybody believes it's the most horrible crime. In America, we don't really see it like that, okay? When we say someone has a drug or someone is caught with a drug, we take the approach of rehabilitating them first, trying to figure out why they went to the drugs and trying to work with them to make sure that they don't go back to drugs. And you saw some of the drugs there. We have 4 different schedules for drugs. Each drugs have different penalties, different sentences, depending on how much and what type of drugs you have. It can range from 1 to 3 years, and then all the way to 25 years in custody, and then a $200,000 fine, which we don't expect anybody to really pay. But we're trying to make sure that they don't do that. As well as what we do in Gwinnett County. We also have a PTID program. If you're caught with a drug the first time, we don't make you go to jail and stay there for life, right? We try to work with you, give you another chance. Don't put a black mark on your criminal record and say you can't, you're a convicted felon. We don't want to do that. That's not our intention. We let them go through a program called PTID that is sometimes 12 months, sometimes 36 months, depending on the problem the child or the person might have, the younger adult might have, and then see if we can rehabilitate them and see if they can get off of the addiction. But like the Officer Mentos said, one time is enough to get them hooked. It's a very hard thing to get off of. And because we do recognize that, our office is also working to make sure that these people don't come back to it. Okay? As a prosecutor, I usually take about 300 cases or look through 300 cases a year. Out of those, I think the majority of them are drugs. I think at least 50 to 60, 70% is drug related. That's a lot. When we think about Gwinnett County, we don't think about drugs, but we do. We have so much drugs everywhere, like Patsy said. And the majority of the drugs that we see is, and I want to preface this. In Georgia, marijuana, if you have less than an ounce, you are actually, it's called a misdemeanor. There's different classes. So you have felony and you have misdemeanor. If you have less than an ounce, we understand that it's something that everybody is starting to use, so we don't really make it a big deal. But the reason why marijuana is so important right now is because the people with meth, the people with heroin, usually has marijuana. Marijuana is the base of all drugs. And that's why I think marijuana can lead to something more and can be dangerous. And so, although we are moving towards a society where we're saying, hey, marijuana can be good use, for medical use, we need to be careful on that as well, because that is the start of everything right now. And so, usually marijuana is the base that we usually get, and then we see a lot of methamphetamine, and that is what looks like candy, It looks like candy, so it's easy for even kids to kind of go, oh, maybe I should try that a little bit. And then, as well as oxycodone. I think a lot of the times we do have a lot of people with oxycodone, and like Officer, again, mentioned, a lot of us have that. I don't know how many of you have had surgery yet, but every time we have surgery, the first thing the doctor gives you is oxycodone. And sometimes even the people that had surgery gets addicted to it. And so it's gradual. I don't think it's just all of a sudden you have 100 grams of meth in your house. It doesn't happen that way. It's little by little, and that's why we try to work with people as they come in a gradual sense. Obviously, the more you have it, the harsher the punishment is going to get. But we do hope that we can get them to rehabilitate really early on in life, really early on when they're first caught, and hopefully that will help. So that is, I believe, the work that our office is doing, not to just give them a black mark on their criminal history just because they have let me speak on that.
부모님들이 우리 자식이 마약을 하고 있다는 걸 알고 그걸 이제 신고를 하지 않습니까? 그러면 제일 걱정하는 게 뭐냐면은 기록이 어떻게 되고 후속지가 제일 궁금하거든요. 그거에 대해서 좀 가르쳐 주시겠습니까?
The question was if in the case our parent finds out that their kids are doing drugs and then they end up having to report to the police. Truthfully, they don't want to do that because they're worried about the black mark that's going to be on their criminal history. And so what are some of the outlets for that? 한국말로 대답하는 게 나을까요?
예.
네. 지금 sorry, I'm gonna go off on it and Korean. 제가 아까는 조금 말을 했지만 처음에 마약을 갖고 이제 첫 기록일 경우에 첫 arrest 일 경우에는 곧바로 그게 무조건 기소가 된다는 보장은 아니에요. 그러니까 저희 아까 전에 조금 말씀드렸지만 저희도 이제 특별히 어릴수록 이 마약이 진짜 누구를 해치고 싶은 이유가 아니라 자기가 힘들었을 때 아니면 그냥 친구가 그냥 줬을 때 하게 되는 거일 수도 있잖아요. 그냥 호기심 때문에 할 수 있는 건데 그것 때문에 갑자기 모든 이 아이의 인생을 망치고 싶은 계획은 전혀 없어요. 그래갖고 저희가 이제 당연히 처음에는 이제 arrest가 되겠죠. 이제 체포가 돼서 처음에는 Gwinnett County 제일로 가게 돼요. 특별히 이제 Gwinnett County에 있을 경우에는 그러면 거기서는 이제 부킹이 되고 근데 보통은 보석금을 내시고 이제 자녀를 같이 나오실 수 있으세요. 곧바로. 그런 다음에 저희는 이제 다른 프로그램들을 통해서 PTID 프로그램이라는 것도 있고 이제 검사를 컨택을 하면 만약에 3년 동안 이제 evaluation을 하고 그것 때문에 트리트먼트를 받고 그러면서 probation officer랑 이제 매달 들어가서 마약 안 하고 있는지 그거 테스팅을 받고 그 기간 동안 그거를 잘 따르고 잘 해주면 이제는 그러면 우리가 이걸 기소를 안 하겠다라는 것도 할 수 있고요. 근데 이제 항상 그런 건 아니지만 이제 상황에 따라 다르고요. 그리고 얼마나 마약을 갖고 있는지에 따라도 조금 다르고요. 그 자녀분들의 기록에 따라도 조금 다를 수 있고 그리고 만약에 이제 그게 아닐 경우에는 법적으로 처음 기록이 있을 경우에는 그거를 아예 그 센텐스 동안 다 할 거를 다 하고 똑바로 다 마치면 이제 다른 사람들은 그걸 못 보게 그러니까 만약에 무슨 일을 해야 될 때 criminal history를 뽑아야 될 경우가 있잖아요. 그럴 경우에는 거기 criminal history에 안 나올 수 있게 해줄 수 있는 법칙도 있어요. 그거를 conditional discharge라는 것도 있고 first offender라는 것도 있어요. 그리고 가끔은 부모님이 그걸 어떻게 다뤄야 될지 모르셔갖고 경찰에 신고하실 때도 있지만 항상 그게 곧바로 이제 당연히 저희가 눈 감아 드릴 수는 없죠. 그렇지만 저희도 그걸 인정하고 그거를 알기 때문에 저희도 그렇고 법적으로도 그렇고 그거를 이제 나중에 이 사람 인생을 망치지는 않을 수 있게 record sealing을 한다고 하죠. 그럴 수 있게 도와주는 프로그램들이 있어요. 네, 그런 방식도 있고 그리고 이제 그런 것도 그래도 좀 두렵다. 내 자식이 감옥에 가는 거 그게 1시간이라도 두렵다. 그러면 이제 미국 조지아 특별히 조지아주에는 이제 누구를 그 나라에서 트리트먼트를 해주는 거는 없어요. 그래서 이제 보통은 부모님이 이제 어디 그 트리트먼트 drug evaluation을 받을 수 있는 데를 데리고 가셔야 돼요. 근데 그거는 당연히 이제 보통은 어차피 지금 마약을 하고 있으면 어차피 부모님이 또 컨트롤하기 힘드신 상황이실 수도 있으니까 보통은 특별히 어릴수록 juvenile record가 될 수도 있는 거고 솔직히 18살 이하면 어차피 기록에 안 남아요. 기록에는 안 남아서 그것도 나이도 생각하시고 조금 말도 웃기긴 하지만 조금 안심하시고 경찰분들한테 도움 요청하셔도 되실 거예요.
Parents, their future is for children, for the school, going to the good college, good job, and that's the part of their, objective. But according to the couple, resources, you go to school, even elementary school, middle school, high school, you go to the cafeteria and also restroom. They have all kind of drugs available. So children come home and very depressed. They don't want to go to school. And so, do you have any way to prevent that program? Second question is, a lot of restaurant or even go to the bar and then sauna, the massage parlors, and all of the churches, they think the safest place in the world, but they have tremendous drugs going on, and they know about it, but they scared if somebody know or recognize that the church member is not going to come to church, so they just secretly cover up. So do you have any program to prevent or get better situation on that?
So there's different programs, like obviously the program that we did today is a way just to provide education. The hardest part is really getting that information out. So there's a lot of things that we do on behalf of the police department where we have different flyers, different programs that we're able to present. The hard part is just getting the word out there. I tell people a lot of times the hard part is, when we're liking Facebook, all these other things, sharing other people's pages, subscribing, things like that. Sometimes some people maybe don't want to just subscribe to just anybody, right? You have a lot of celebrities, for example, they have millions of followers, but they're only following just a couple people, right? And I say that because sometimes maybe people aren't as reluctant or willing to follow a police department, for example, right? And so sometimes just being able to get somebody to follow our page, they're able to see a lot of the good things that we do. They're able to see the ways that we reach out to the community, like Clayton Lee helping setting up things like this, Coffee with a Cop, other different types of programs where we try to really get out into the community. Like we talked about earlier, sometimes it's hard because maybe other people are providing maybe not the right information. And so sometimes there's things that are said about the community, the police department, things of that nature, and it's always best to go to the source. That way you can get an actual answer from somebody, right? So the biggest thing I can say is just, continue allowing us like today to be able to come out and speak with you today, to be able to provide you with some of the information that we have. So like I said, we have presentations like this, we do things like active shooter, we have all sorts of different programs where we can even come to your home to make sure you're not the victim of a burglary. There are a lot of things that we can come out to and be able to provide a security survey for your home to make sure that you have better security than what you started out with, right? So there's a lot of things that we do that are all free. We're never going to charge you to be able to come out and provide a presentation or to do a security assessment of your home, things like that. So we're always looking for new ways to reach out to the community. If there's something that maybe you have a concern or a question about, please let us know, and that way we can start developing additional programs, right? Because sometimes we look at the information we have, we develop different types of programs, but sometimes it's always very helpful for the community to let us know what needs or concerns they may have, and from there we're able to then provide additional information for you. So to kind of answer your question, there's a lot of things that we provide and we would love to provide them to the community, and the hard part is just letting the community know what we have available.
I have another question.
Sure. Please.
They have a CBD store that's available community, which is very strong marijuana, I believe, substitute there. Do you
something to maybe get with Ms. Patsy. I think she's excited to answer that question.
Not really.
What I will say is that a lot of the things that you see in the CBD stores, that was part of the Hemp Act that had gotten passed. And a lot of those things are kind of what's being allowed to go out there. The CBDs, essentially CBD is the non-psychoactive version of marijuana. It has other different properties, things like that go in with CBD. The hard part is that sometimes that there's statistics out there that show that they actually tend to have more adverse effects than the different marijuana and other things. So a lot of kids are getting these headaches, they're getting sick, they're getting all of these other adverse effects. And the biggest thing is really just education and letting them know the different types of dangers, because the unfortunate part is our friends or colleagues or whatever, they're giving that other information, and a lot of it is just providing more additional information. So I don't have a way to say how we can overturn CBD, things like that. But the biggest thing is that if we know about something, then we're better off about trying to get away from the things that can hurt us.
There's a lot of cases pending right now in the courts, going up to the higher courts to see what the final answer is going to be on some of these type stores that sell things over the counter to our kids. And I meant to talk about that too, because now they have a lot of stuff that looks like it's geared toward kids. It looks like candy. That they can just take this stuff and it should be all right, because any child, any young person thinks that if they go into a convenience store or something like that, whatever they buy there should be safe. But it's not right now. And there are some court cases that should be coming back down this year about the edibles that are out there. They even have this, I'll call it a drug, because it's called Stonios, looks like cookies. They call it Stonios, and different things like that are geared toward young people. So those kind of rulings are coming back down from the courts, and pretty much that's where it's at right now, because I was sued on behalf of my office because of a crackdown at the Metro Net Task Force that I don't order them to do things, okay? But anyway, I got accused of being the one that told them to go do raids in these CBD stores and things like that. So I got sued behind that. But at the same time, when you look at some of the stuff that's coming out of here, it's not safe. It's not safe for our community. So we're still, we'll be working hard on that, and we'll let Clayton Lee and Koyan and different folks like that know when those cases come down what the results were. So just, vote. I think if you vote for the right people that want to protect the community and want to do things, not just for the money part of it, because that's not what we're here for. We're here to be of service to the community and to have things in the community that's right and healthy. And you do have that's a legitimate concern that you have about the CBD stores.
To them as well within the last week or so. And so one thing that we had kind of talked about together is finding a way to get into the schools as well. So they have a fantastic program from what I've seen where they're educating the youth that are in their program to realize the safety issues and concerns of drugs and other activities like that. And they're really providing our youth with knowledge about how to, take it to the schools to help have a more positive influence. And so one of the things that we had spoken with in the last week or so is trying to get with them and work a way to be able to get into the schools and the outreach that they have be a supplemental to that, to be able to then open the door for us to also provide additional education as well.
말씀하고 조금 할게요. 지금 아까 전에 막 드럭이 어떻게 생겼고 뭘로 그거를 투입하고 뭘 어떻게 먹고 그러는 거는 솔직히 부모님들이 제일 아셔야 될 거예요. 왜냐하면 이제 애들은 어떻게 접하든 접하게 될 거고, 근데 이제 부모님들이 뭐 빨래를 하시든지 그냥 청소를 하시다가 그게 나타나면 그거를 아시고 그거에 대해서 이제 레드 플래그라고 하죠. 그거를 보시고 뭔가 문제가 있을 수도 있겠다라는 거는 솔직히 안타깝지만 저희 커뮤니티에서 어쩔 수 없이 프로그램이라는 게 뭐 누구한테 직접적으로 가고 계속 그걸 가르쳐주고 막 매번 할 수 있는 게 아니잖아요. 그리고 저희도 지금 이거를 통해서 최대한 많은 분들한테 전달해드리기를 원하지만 지금 보시다시피 많은 분들은 참석을 못 하시기 때문에 진짜 이런 프로그램을 많이 오시고 아시고 이제 부모님들이 그거를 조금 더 어쩔 수 없이 조금 more aware, 조금 더 이제 계속 본인 자식들 이제 저는 자식이 아직 없어서 근데 이제 애들 이제 청소해주시고 막 그럴 때 보시고 그거를 이게 마약일 수도 있겠구나라는 걸 아시는 게 제일 좋은 것 같고요. 그리고 두 번째는 그 아이들이랑 소통이 제일 중요하실 것 같아요. 왜냐하면 이런 게 있는데 너희들은 이런 걸 봤는지 그런 거를 애들한테 물어보시고 조금 더 적극적으로 애들이 이렇게 말을 해줄 수 있는 것도 되게 중요한 것 같아요. 그리고 아시는지 모르겠지만 이제 메리와나라는 게 있지만 햄프라는 법이 한 3년 전에 패스된 거예요. 되게 새로운 법이거든요. 그래서 그것 때문에 CBD 이 가게들이 생기기 시작했고 약간 그거의 베이스는 메리와나도 몸에 좋을 수도 있고 도움이 될 수도 있기 때문에 메리와나처럼 100% 그 강한 도수가 아니라 그거보다 좀 약하게 계속 그거를 조정을 해서 좀 약한 버전으로 햄프를 만들어서 그거는 헌법적으로 해달라 해서 된 건데 솔직히 저희가 봤을 때는 냄새도 비슷하고요. 생긴 것도 되게 비슷하고 그래서 그거를 구분하기가 되게 아직은 어려워요. 근데 아무래도 새로운 법이다 보니까 처음에는 항상 좋은 생각으로 했지만 이제 계속 다듬어 가야 되겠죠. 그래갖고 미국은 좋은 게 이제 그 재판을 통해서 벌써 있는 법을 이제 더 다듬어 가게 되는 방식이 있잖아요. 그래갖고 이제 저희도 패치가 말했다시피 아직은 재판에 가 있는 케이스들이 서프림 코트에 많아요. 그래서 그걸 이제 다듬어 가는 와중에 지금 아직 좀 초기라서 그거는 계속 관심을 가져주시고 계속 보시면 저희도 이제 최대한 그거를 계속 업데이트를 해드리는 방법으로 가고 있습니다.
We still have hope for our young generation, and then we really need to love them, and then 그리고 we really need to focus on why they start to drug. 가면 말했는데 이제 can I speak Korean too? Yeah. 근데 충격받은 것 중에 하나가 sometimes they are very affected through music. Yeah. 그리고 sometimes they 친구 중요하고 음악도 중요하잖아요. 근데 좀 더 뮤직이 어떻게 뭐 가사가 그렇다든지 아니면 가수가 그렇다든지 아니면 뭐 틱톡이나 뭐 SNS가 그렇다든지 그러니까 청소년한테 가장 지금 친밀한 게 친구하고 음악이나 이런 거잖아요. 근데 좀 구체적으로 설명을 좀 해줬으면 좋겠어요. 음악이 어떤 면에 있어서 그런지.
She would like to know the effects of music, considering music and friends are what teenagers these days are more in tune to, and the effects of that, teenagers getting into drugs.
I feel it's related. Some of what they listen to does impact them. So I don't know as parents what we can do as parents is just watch what they're doing and making sure that it's wholesome. You know, even play some of your own music, you know, in the household that they can, you know, develop and get into that. I spoke to a strap group that graduated from our juvenile court once, and I told them, listen to Earth, Wind and Fire, you know, those good groups with good wholesome music that just makes you want to dance, you know, that kind of thing. And that's great, but some of their music is dark, you know, and they don't have a lot of hope. So like you said, loving them, letting them know that they have hope, and they have a future, I think is imperative. And there's a bunch of good kids out here. I've been down to South Gwinnett High School, and you never hear in the media a lot about what's good is happening there, but there's so much good. You have kids into music, into spoken word, into singing, and these kids put on an open mic night during Black History Month, and it was phenomenal. Just the talent that you see that's out there, you know. And I guess as parents and people that love young people, we just have to push them, encourage them, and just let them know that there's more out there. And being a teenager in general is kind of challenging, you know, and just convince them, let them know they'll get over that hump, give themselves a chance to grow up. You know, so much is happening in our community. Some young people do not believe that they will ever be 25. They don't think they're going to live long enough to be 25. That's not good. That's not good, you know. They just need to look at us, people in this room. You know, they're older people. You can live past 25, okay? So that is the thing. You just loving them, hugging them, you know, play some of your music, you know. And culturally, I know that the Korean community does tell them what the culture is about. I think that's so important, is to continue to impress upon them who they are, you know, and that they have a voice, you know, and pray. We're in the church. Let's pray for them. Oh my goodness.
질문 있는데 그 뮤직이랑 법적인 거 대해서 여쭤보시는 건가요? 아니면
선생님이 보통 뮤직이라는 거면은 이런 뭐 라디오나 아니면 TV나 무슨 아니면 거기서 나오는 건 괜찮을 것 같은데 어떻게 자기들이 만드는 뮤직 아니면 가사가 그래서 영향을 받게 되는 거예요?
네, 그렇죠. 뭐 보통 okay, so 어린 생각으로 제가 봤을 때는 most people when they get into music, it's not because of the lyrics. Initially, it's not. It's because of the beat, right? People like the beat of it, and then they don't really listen to the lyrics until later on. I think the first part of it is, you know, even in Korea, 뭐 후크성이라고 하죠. 막 tell me 그때 있었고 막 소리 맨날 반복하고 되게 중독성이 있지만 나중에 가서 그래하고 그거를 뭐 가사 때문에 듣는 건 아니잖아요. 보통 리듬 때문에 듣고 뮤직 때문에 듣는 건데 이제 그 사이사이에 이제 요즘에는 가사들이 많이 안 좋게 들어가 있는데 어쩔 수 없지만 미국에서는 그거를 통제할 수 있는 방법은 없어요. 그게 미국이라는 나라의 장점이고 단점이기도 하지만 법적으로 그거를 뭐 가사 때문에 뭐 you can only turn it on in some radio station 뭐 그런 거는 없어요. 네. 그래서 이제 뭐 영화를 봐도 뭐 PG-13, 뭐 Rated R가 있지만 그것도 부모님한테 그 초이스를 넘겨드리잖아요. 그 레이팅이 있어도 부모님이 원하시면 보여주실 수도 있는 거고 싫으면 안 보여주실 수도 있는 거고. 약간 kind of the same concept. 영화도 그렇지만 음악도 음악은 레이팅이 없죠. 레이팅이 없지만 이제 부모님들도 가사를 보시고 들으시고 이게 애들이 들어도 되는 건지 안 들어야 되는 건지는 이제 그건 가정 안에서 어쩔 수 없지만 이루어져야 되는 것 같아요.
예, 저도 솔직히 그냥 한국어로 여쭤볼게요. 저는 한국에서 자라고 그리고 결혼을 하고 일로 이주한 1세대고요. 저는 아이가 2 자녀가 있어요. 근데 아이들은 전부 다 이제 미국에 있는 학교를 나오고 그러다 보니까 솔직히 아까도 지금 이게 제목 자체가 청소년 마약 예약 프로그램이잖아요. 하지만 부모가 알아야 아이들하고 얘기할 수 있고 아까 다른 분들도 아이랑 많이 얘기하라고 하시는데 솔직히 저희가 어렸을 때 자랐던 환경은 마약이라는 데서 전혀 들어본 적도 없고 솔직히 아까 일반적인 저 슬라이드에 보여주신 것들도 저게 솔직히 저쪽 쪽에 속한다고 해서 솔직히 놀란 부분이 많기 때문에 이런 거는 솔직히 영어보다는 저는 솔직히 한국어가 더 편하거든요. 아무리 영어 책을 읽어도 이거를 여러 번 읽어야 솔직히 한국말처럼 들리는 부분이 있어서 솔직히 이런 그 슬라이드나 아니면 이런 인포메이션 같은 거를 한국어로 해서 부모님들하고 혹시 부모님이 솔직히 쉽게 솔직히 저도 제 주위에 엄마들이 다 1세대 부모님도 많고 하다 보니까 나 오늘 이런 프로그램에 갔었는데 솔직히 이런 거를 너가 참여를 했으니 뭐 어느 사이트에 가서 한국어에 관련된 거 너가 혹시 정보를 받을 수 있을 거야 해서 혹시 그런 자세한 정보를 혹시 알려주실 수 있는 뭐 사이트라든가 아니면 한국어 정보 제공해 줄 수 있는지. 네.
So just the translation on that question, because I think Clinton might have a better answer on that. She's thankful for the fact that we were able to present all of that. But she is a first generation Korean that had lived all her life in Korea. She has 2 kids that are now going through school in America. But although it's all brand new stuff for her, right? Because she's never been exposed to anything like this in Korea. Korea is a very it's just now starting to get really bad in Korea. But so generations on, Korea is not used to that, exposed to that, even thinking of it. So the fact that these could be drugs are in itself a surprise. So she would like to know if there are any resources that are detailed in Korean that she can go to after programs like this, where she can get more detailed information.
How many cases are currently pending for Asian youth who is in charge of possession of a drug or selling drug? Do you have any cases pending? Or how many cases have you had done in 2022? Can you share that information with us?
If you're aware, I know we do have some, but I don't have the exact number.
So in the over 3 years that I've been in Gwinnett County, and because of the category, we're speaking about youth versus adults, there is a difference. I'm not 100% sure because in Georgia, juvenile law, which is for the youth, and then adult law is a little different, and the court is completely different. I don't have any juvenile cases. I usually don't deal with juvenile cases because we have special courts that are set for only children. However, I am happy to say that I don't see many Asian names, period, when it comes to drugs, as of now. I know there are a couple, sometimes one does fall through the cracks and we do see a couple once in a while. I do see some for maybe battery or, physical fights or things like that. But most of the time I don't really see many Korean especially that have drugs. That is not to say that there isn't any, because I'm sure there is a few. But thankfully, as of now, at least now, I don't think we are in that situation yet.
Recently I was told from a lawyer who is Korean, and he said there last year there was a loss of students who was overdosed, and he was straight A student, leader in high school, and this is kind of shock to hear that. But our parents, we should not neglect that. Our children will never do drug because they are my kids. My kids never do drug. They don't believe that. But incidents like that happened. So I guess my saying is that we should continue to educate and share the information to our parents. Your children, your child is vulnerable. The peer pressure is there always in school. So
we have to not neglect that because he's good. My kids are good Christian, go to church every day, every Sunday. That doesn't mean that they can't, they don't do drugs. It's a possibility. So we have to be awake in that situation. But do you know the case?
I don't know.
Why is not publicized? I just don't understand. Why there is an article about that case.
And I don't know if you want to take this, but overdose is unfortunately a very common situation in Georgia and in America. And why it's not publicized and why it's not on the newspapers, I'm sure, maybe the local newspaper might have picked it up very shortly, very smallly, and just, it's come to the point in America where overdosing on a drug is just another day for especially the news media. It's not news for the media because they see it so many times. On top of that, and I do agree with you though, especially for Koreans, I think you will see a lot more cases where it's too late when they find out because a lot of the Korean parents really don't expect it. Okay? It's very unexpected for Korean parents to even think that there's a possibility that my child might be doing something like that. Because that's the culture we live in, right? Our culture is where we do everything by the book. 말 잘 듣고, 맨날 학교 잘 가고, 교회 다니고, 그게 저희는 너무 익숙하니까 저희 자식이 그거를 하고 있을 거라는 생각은 전혀 스치지도 않을 것 같아요, 대부분. 근데 그래서 너무 늦게 발견할 때가 많죠. 그래서 그게 저는 이제 자식도 낳으려고 계획을 하고 있는데 항상 그게 제 걱정이에요. 점점 어려워지시는 것 같아요. 네, 부모님으로서 진짜 애들이 너무 익스포즈가 되니까 진짜 사방에서 그런 문제들이 생기니까 그거를 어떻게 적당히 보호해주면서 그렇다고 아예 그냥 가둬놓을 수는 없으니까 그걸 어떻게 적당히 하시는지가 진짜 어려우신 것 같은데 그래서 진짜 I really think programs like this where we can do this monthly and I'd be willing to be there monthly if I need to be, but getting the word out and letting other people know that there are things like this is very, very important in our community now.
What I would say is that, one thing that we can do is the information that we've learned today, the things that we've discussed in here, just letting our friends, our relatives, our coworkers just know that information. Sometimes people may be a little bit timid to come out to a town hall meeting or an event like today, because there's a lot of unknowns, things that maybe they just don't know what's going to be talked about or what to expect. And I think we all here today could be able to educate those around us to let them know. And that way, if this is something that is continued, we have more of these meetings, we have more of these programs, hopefully the numbers continue. We have a good turnout today, but we can always get better. And so I think spreading that information, letting maybe some of our friends and our relatives, coworkers, things like that know that, hey, look, I went up to this meeting, this is what they said, this is what I felt. They're going to learn from your experiences, and from there, they may be willing to come to an event like this to learn more, and then from there, that information gets passed out a lot further.
엄마가 청소하다가 빨래하다가 그런 거 발견했는데 어머니들이 영어가 잘 안 되니까 연결이 잘 안 돼요. 제가 그런 걸 몇 번 경험을 했거든요. 귀네카운티는 어떠한 핫라인이 있고 어떻게 영어를 못하는 사람들 도와주는 것이 있는지 그거 좀 얘기 좀 해주실래요?
So he has seen many cases where they want to reach out to 911, but because of their language barrier, they haven't been able to do so. Or if they do call 911, they have the language barrier, and it makes it difficult for them to report it properly. But our programs out there that can help facilitate that smoother approach.
thing that I will say is that, we're always hiring, right? We're always looking for individuals in the community to step up and be able to be out there to serve their community, So one thing that could happen is that we can get more of those in our community to step up into different positions, the attorney's office, things of that nature, police officers, firemen, all these other jobs that are out there serving the community, just getting more like-minded, like-culture folks out there. So we're always hiring. That is one thing that is always really big that we can do. In terms of language barriers, if we have more of those that represent our communities out there, we're able to meet that need. What I will say is that we have a language line program. So if you call into 911 and there is a language barrier of any language, we're able to contact the service within real time, very quickly. We're able to identify what that language is, find an interpreter, and immediately be able to start helping and providing care to that individual. That's something that our dispatchers have access to. The officers that work the road also have that ability where we can call that language line to go ahead and get a hold of an interpreter to be able to kind of meet that language barrier, okay? The other things, a lot of times, what we'll do is we'll pull out our phone, we'll go to Google Translate, and we'll use that to even be able to try to, make that connection with a lot of the individuals that are out there. So that is one thing that is used, I would say, daily, almost hourly, if anything.
한국말로 좀 얘기 좀 해주실래요?
네, 제일 처음 말씀하신 거는 이제 당연히 저희가 항상 도움이 많이 필요해요. 그래갖고 이제 한국 커뮤니티에서 이제 volunteer이든 아니면 이제 아예 직업으로 삼으셔서 도와주실 수 있으신 분들이 있으면 항상 저희는 너무 감사하고 항상 필요가 있지만 제일 간단한 거는 이제 저희가 점점 이런 커뮤니티가 커질수록 language line이라는 게 더 발달되기 시작했어요. 그래갖고 전화를 주시면 영어 못한다, 한국말이 필요하다 하시면 이제 그쪽 전화를 받고 있는 분이 language line을 커넥트를 하셔서 이제 같이 소통할 수 있게 하는 방법이 있고요. 그리고 이제 당연히 저희도 계속 이제 하이어링도 계속 하면서 이제 한국 분들도 더 같이 이제 일하기 시작하면서 그걸로 이제 저도 이제 오피스에서 만약에 전화 오시면 저도 되게 많이 연락을 하거든요. 그래갖고 그런 방법이 지금으로서는 그런 방법